districts to avoid cross-contamination among fire stations and among long-term care and assisted living facilities throughout the city that we recognized early on as potential sources of major breakout. Chief Bob Searles had the goal to avoid a positive COVID case with an EMT spreading unabated throughout our ranks and threatening our ability to continue a high level of service or be the cause of infection somewhere else in the community. The need for personal protective equipment early on in the pandemic was critical but hard to come by, especially N95 masks. Our EMTs have since put into use powered air purifying respirators, otherwise known as PAPRs, to provide the highest level of protection when treating patients. We are forever grateful to many in the community that came to our aid and helped us fill a gap until PPE was more plentiful. Local seamstresses sewed new elastic straps to our masks so we could extend their use. The Mentor schools provided hand sanitizer, wipes, and gloves. Local physicians and dentists dropped off additional PPE. Orbis Manufacturing donated 200 face shields. RB Sigma, a new company in our city that I'll talk about a little later, donated hundreds of KN95 and surgical masks. Car Parts Warehouse donated hundreds of surgical masks. Meyer, Giant Eagle, and Mentor Family Foods all donated hand sanitizer and other cleaning supplies. And Steris assisted us with decontamination procedures. And Component Repair Technology used their skill and ingenuity to construct 7 isolation units custom fitted to our rescue squads to provide a much safer environment to treat potential COVID-19 patients. The Mentor Police Department made COVID adjustments as well to continue meeting resident expectations. To reduce exposure, summonses were issued for nonviolent crimes instead of physical arrests, and phone reporting replaced much in-person interaction. In many ways, our police officers are among the most vulnerable and exposed, and we greatly appreciate the unwavering dedication they have shown. One silver lining to the stay-at-home orders is the overall impact on criminal activity in the city this past year. Calls for service were down almost 8%, criminal offenses were down 16%, adult arrests were down 40%, and vehicle accidents were also down 30%, which is quite significant. Still, the police department continued to expand its community policing efforts. This past holiday season, our first Porch Pirate special detail began. The program targets those who would steal delivered packages from residential homes and led to the arrest of one person involved in stealing packages from multiple households in 3 different Lake County communities. This year, the department will place into service a system of 15 fixed automatic license plate readers in strategic locations throughout the city. These readers will continuously scan tens of thousands of vehicles daily and automatically run those plates through the FBI's National Crime Information Center via a cloud server. If a hit occurs, our police officers are immediately notified in their vehicles and can quickly attempt an apprehension. The cameras also provide video recording of the vehicles, which can serve as both evidence and aid in establishing an investigation timeline. As an example, it is common for criminals to steal a car in one city and drive it to another in order to commit a worse crime. If that car is identified as stolen through the license plate reader on its way into our city, we can be looking for it immediately before another crime happens. Some agencies using this technology report a 1/3 drop in calls for service by targeting crime hotspots. In addition to coronavirus, another major story this past year was the scale of civil unrest this past summer, touched off by the tragic death of George Floyd. The mission statement of the Mentor Police Department, established many years ago, highlights 3 core values: integrity, fairness, and professionalism. These are the core values I believe should drive the actions and policies of every police agency and police officer in this country. George Floyd's death outraged our nation and caused many Americans to question if these values are consistently reflected in the law enforcement agencies where they live. Many communities struggled to balance giving voice to the cause for racial justice and standing with those sworn to preserve peace and order. Where violence and destruction ruled the day, constructive dialogue suffered. I was proud of how the Mentor community faced this challenge. We saw peaceful demonstrations led by those who sought assurance that our city was committed to justice and equality. Our police officers and leadership under Chief Ken Gunch work to ensure both the safety of those participating in these events and their right to be heard, and also participate in organized engagements to share information on police department policies and practices. I'm a big believer that there is always value in listening to the public we serve. By listening, we have a chance to either validate the things we are doing or learn how we might get better, sometimes both. I've said many times before that the Mentor Police Department has formed a close bond of trust with the community it serves. That community includes all those who live, work, and visit here. We remain committed to serving all impartially, to be a force for good, acting with equity and restraint. I believe our track record demonstrates that. But the events this summer also helped us to reinforce our commitment to those values. Over the last year, every officer has received training on implicit bias and de-escalation of force. We have also adopted a policy requiring intervention by any officer observing an excessive use of force. This year, we will expand diversity training for our officers to better understand persons with special needs and conditions such as autism. We are also implementing an officer use of force tracking system. As summer concluded, the focus of our pandemic response shifted toward preparation for community vaccine distribution. In an effort led by the Lake County Fire Chiefs and the Lake County General Health District, a model drive-through system was developed to provide efficient delivery of large amounts of vaccine when it came available. Planning is in place to have 3 such large points of distribution ready to go in Mentor, Wickliffe, and Perry, covering the east, central, and west geographical areas of the county. Several of these events have already taken place at facilities in Mentor, Wickliffe, and county-owned facilities where thousands have already been vaccinated. Lake Health and Cleveland Clinic have also cooperated with the General Health District and local communities on sharing of resources and facilities to get the vaccine into the arms of our residents as quickly as possible. Despite what you may have heard in news reports about states and local communities failing to get vaccine out quickly, I can assure you this is not happening in Lake County. We are able to get out as much vaccine as we receive. Mentor's best practices and effectiveness at raising public awareness about pandemic-related topics have been recognized by our regional and state counterparts. The city's Public Information Office, led by Ante Legarczyk and his talented staff, was asked to produce 2 PSAs for the state of Ohio for a series entitled Be a Part of the Solution. The first encouraged the public to ease the strain on first responders by recognizing when and when not to call 911, and the second encouraged first responders to get the COVID vaccine. Both are being seen in communities all across Ohio. I also want to acknowledge the great work of the Lake County General Health District under Commissioner Ron Graham's leadership, who has worked with our city and all Lake County communities to find the balance between keeping our public safe, keeping our economy as intact as possible, and finding creative ways to allow for some community activities. The Mentor business community has suffered for sure, especially small business, but we have fared better overall than what was originally anticipated. The city's general fund revenue, which is usually a pretty good indicator of the strength of the local economy, was down just under 4% in 2020 from the prior year. An even greater anticipated shortfall required city officials to scrutinize even more closely the expenditure of our tax dollars and to get creative in reducing costs. Our city felt the sting of layoffs for the first time, but by year end we were able to reduce overall expenditures by a greater amount than our revenue loss and actually increased our unencumbered carryover balance at year end. Finance Director David Malinowski and his staff were instrumental in making this happen. One example of creative cost-cutting moving forward is the decision by Public Works Director Matt Schweikert to take on paint roadway striping citywide beginning in 2021, a $300,000 annual cost we think we can reduce and do it better. Despite the uncertainty in the economy, several new businesses opened their doors this past year or expanded. Some of these include, on the manufacturing side, South Shore Controls, which made a $3.2 million investment in a 35,000 square foot facility. They specialize in process improvements for plant operations and added 60 new jobs with a $4.5 million payroll. Byers Products is in the process of more than doubling its Mentor presence as they complete a nearly 300,000 square foot expansion for office, manufacturing, and distribution space. Sunset Industries relocated to Mentor to produce machine parts for the aerospace industry, bringing 40 jobs and a $3 million investment. Alloy Bellows Star Precision moved operations from Highland Heights to Mentor, investing $4.5 million in 20,000 square feet of new manufacturing space and added 54 additional jobs. Uvamed is a UK company that manufactures a product known as a rainbow tray anesthesia medication management system. They are a medical device company that decided to open a location in Mentor as a result of participating in one of our inbound international trade conferences. They have plans to expand their presence in our city over the next 2 years as well. Another relocation to Mentor is Fulton & Associates, which does testing, adjusting, and balancing of environmental control systems. They brought 35 new jobs and intend to grow to a $3.1 million payroll by 2023. RB Sigma came at exactly the right time for our community. Founded on the need for U.S.-sourced PPE, they manufacture and sell a full range of personal protective equipment, including N95 masks. They've invested $1.6 million into their Heisley Road production facility and are employing 85 employees with a $3.3 million payroll. They have already produced 30 million units out of their Mentor plant. Their most recent product is an app called ArmorVax that connects people to local vaccine providers. It is now being used by the Lake County General Health District and several of the largest county health departments in Ohio. They have also been extremely generous in donating masks for our first responders and for our Men of Rock series. We had about 50 retail and commercial businesses opening in the past year. A few of those are Platinum Real Estate on Center Street that is bringing over 100 jobs and a complete renovation of the former Polo building. At Home, Austin Steakhouse, Brew Kettle, which very nicely complements the mall, G-Licious Pizza, and Bluefin Asian Kitchen. The beautiful new 38,000 square foot Macy Family Dentistry Medical Office building opened on Norton Parkway this year. This $6.4 million investment now houses 6 medical office practices. 2 new ones to Mentor are the Vitreoretinal Ophthalmology Practice and Periodontal Associates, which together bring over 50 new healthcare jobs to the city. And there are some exciting projects on the horizon for 2021. A new multi-tenant retail building will be constructed on Mentor Avenue at the site of the former Huntington Bake site at Plaza Boulevard. This 7,200 square foot building will have 2 or 3 storefronts, and the developer is finalizing tenant agreements now. The site of the old Sawyer House, which was last known as the local tavern, will be raised to make room for a new specialty grocer. This is a 14,000 square foot, over $3 million investment. The city is cooperating by signalizing the entry and widening about 600 feet of Mentor Avenue there to add a turn lane. The project should be complete by the end of 2021, and while we are not at liberty to name the tenant yet, it will likely be well received. The city has also negotiated the right to retain the exterior stone blocks from the historic portion of the existing structure, which will be repurposed within our park system in some interpretive way. Omni Senior Living will begin a 2-phase project to complement their current investment just south of Interstate 90 and accessible off of State Route 615. The first phase is a 60,000 square foot independent assisted living and memory care center, and the